I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me. I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me. Today on the show, we return to the Star Wars universe with Rogue One, and we're going to spoil the crap out of this thing. This is Nerdy Pop. Welcome to the Nerdy Pop Rogue One special. We are here to dissect Rogue One and everything that we've been looking forward to for the last year as we've been watching trailers and getting ready for this thing. With me today are two of my favorite people. My wife, Stacy Barnes, and actor Adam DeCarlo. Stacy, obviously my wife, so I know her pretty well. Adam and I go way back to when I actually taught him in high school. And he's now acting in New York and working on Gotham, and just had a bit in an episode, a couple of episodes back, and we just got to see you get your ass kicked by a teenage girl, which was the highlight of my year, probably. Well, not my year, because we got married. That was big too.
Jeez, downplaying that.
Wow.
But let's get into Rogue One. Adam is a Star Wars super fan. Stacy's here because she is sort of the casual fan. I'm somewhere in between. I think we cover the entire spectrum of people who would have gone to see this movie this weekend. So I want to, before we get in, a few stats though. It opened to over $290 million this weekend. It's the fourth largest December opening, the third largest opening of the year so far, the 12th largest of all time, and the second largest December movie debut, over $100 million. Of course, the only other one was Star Wars: The Force Awakens last year. So it's doing well, I would say. Let's start with basic, just to get an idea where you guys are coming from. Scale of 1 to 10, how'd you like it?
8.
8, that's good.
Yes.
Okay. Adam?
I'm going to do like a 7.5, 8.
7.5, 8. I'd say 8 as well. So we're all kind of in the same general area. I think one of the things that I'm reading online a lot and I've been thinking a lot about was, because this is our first main story, the main kind of
The Skywalker.
The Skywalker, not trilogy now. It's I don't even know, what do you call something that's going to have 9 films in it? But this is our first kind of outside the main thing. Did it feel like Star Wars to you?
Yeah, I think all the elements of a Star Wars movie were there. I think it had like a more indie film kind of vibe, like lots of Steadicam shots and lots of like just filmmaking things, stuff that's not usually in Star Wars movies, but I felt like it still had that vibe. I think it being in the original trilogy era helped, like all the original costumes and stuff like that we're so familiar with, but like with a new edge. So I think it certainly felt familiar.
Yeah. Stace?
Yeah, I agree. It felt more... it's weird because it's prequel.
Yeah.
But somehow feels more current. And that's probably just because of cameras and all that stuff. But it just felt more like tightened up. And
Yeah. And it didn't have the crawl at the beginning, which worked for me. I kind of wondered I know a lot of people were like, is it okay that they don't... But it kind of worked. It didn't... I think it would have been... Especially since the whole plot of this movie was taken from the crawl from A New Hope. Yeah. So a crawl about, it would have been too much maybe. And then, and some of they didn't do the white transitions and that type of thing. But what about the music? Did you feel like the music felt too Star Warsy, not enough?
Well, the music was weird because I love Michael Giacchino.
I do too,
thought he should have scored Force Awakens because I can't stand that score. Outside of her flying down on the sand dune and the little piano bit there, I was and then nothing else. And you could hear him take cues from the originals, but never fully execute them. Yes. Which I don't know if it's to leave that cue for A New Hope and Empire and Jedi and have that be the first time we hear it. But it sounded Star Warsy, but just Force Awakens, I didn't hear a theme. I was oh. Right. Which is one thing about the prequels, as horrible as they are, he crushed those scores. Each of them are so fantastic. Yeah. But the movies are terrible. But But it sounded Star Warsy, but I was meh.
Yeah. As a casual fan,
as a casual fan, I didn't notice it being distracting.
Okay.
So, which means I didn't hate it. But I liked the little nods to, having the pieces of the original in the background. He'd throw them in there a little bit.
which I felt honestly were some of the strongest parts because he wove them in ways that felt very natural and organic. The part that didn't work for me was actually when it came up and said Rogue One and there was like a bit of fanfare there, and it felt like, oh, we're trying to be Star Warsy without being Star Warsy. Yeah. It kind of came off like Battlestar Galactica 1970s or something like that. But it was short and you were like, okay, I'm glad we've moved past that. Now let's get back. Because a lot of his other cues, even the ones that didn't take specifically from, like the original trilogy, they had that feel to it. In fact, right away, because of course it's a Star Wars movie, so you expect the fanfare at the beginning, and that wasn't there. But it goes down to that planet, and that subtle music that happened there felt so John Williams, felt so Star Wars that immediately I was like, okay, I get it. And I felt like overall the aesthetic of it made it feel Star Warsy enough that they could change some of the way they did things. They did, titles on things that they haven't done in the past.
Yeah, we've never seen that before.
Yeah, to introduce, tell you where you're at, which actually was good because they were kind of all over the place like that first half of the movie. I agree. I felt like overall, it felt like a movie in the Star Wars universe, but it separated itself enough from sort of the main story that it kind of worked as a side story. So overall, we all liked it, obviously, and a 7.5 to an 8.5 in that area there is still positive. What worked for you guys?
What I really liked about this movie was that plot hole from A New Hope that's been bugging everybody for going on 40 years of whose design flaw was that? Even Family Guy did a whole thing about it where Stewie was like, I think you better check on that. And they're like, no, it's fine. And it's like, who wrote? And they fully went back, and it's a whole plot device now.
Yeah.
But now when you go back and watch A New Hope, you're like, oh, that was all on purpose because this guy was doing this thing for the rebellion, and it gives A New Hope. I watched A New Hope over the weekend, and it had a whole different feel to it.
Right.
That this was all on purpose and all a grand master plan from the guy who designed the Death Star, and
right.
So now I kind of watch A New Hope differently.
Right. And it felt like some of the best retconning ever. It actually worked really well where you're like, oh, they didn't, because a lot of times I feel like they try to go back and explain something by changing and it's like, okay, but this actually felt really intentional, oh, I could actually believe that this all led to that, What something that worked for you?
Well, as a casual Star Wars watcher and fan, it helped for this movie in particular, with the titles you were talking about, seeing how things were spelled, so then when I'm hearing the word, I'm like, oh, that's what they're saying. That helped, and then all the different planets that they go to, or worlds. But it helped to explain a lot of the backstory. So I feel like I understand the real Star Wars better because of all the stuff that happened in Rogue One.
Yeah.
A lot of it. Even though, and I don't know if we're getting to this later, because I'm a casual follower and watcher, had no idea that every single person was going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of mad about it.
Right. We'll put a spoiler alert up at the beginning. But
everyone.
I love that.
My sister, it's so funny because my sister always jokes, if you ask her, oh, how is this movie? She goes, everyone dies. That's her standard thing. Oh, everyone dies. So
I just wish I knew.
And it actually happened. Yeah. So, but I was telling Stacy yesterday, I feel like one of the things that works about it is sort of its place in the overall Star Wars universe, and it would be like seeing a World War II film where you know how the war ends, and you're focusing on a particular group who sacrifice their lives to allow that ending to take place. And so seeing it in that context, you celebrate that and their journey and that kind of thing. But she was saying going into it, having no idea that that's what this was going to be about, she's like, what the hell? You killed everybody.
What the hell? And because I was just thinking of younger generations who didn't grow up with Star Wars and don't know all the things, kids that go to see this, I feel like this somehow, any Star Wars true fan would know that Rogue One is going to be everyone dies. But the casual person like me and any kids or families that go in are just that looks like a good movie, and go in and just get devastated because you get so attached to all the cute, the robot K2 and the cute Asian guy, and and then they just die.
Yeah. But I would argue that if parents have not shown their kids the other Star Wars movie, they're not doing a great job as parents.
Right.
Maybe failing as parents. Yeah.
On a whole,
As just as a whole, as parents, they're
But
failing.
do you know? I mean,
like call child
would
protective
kids
services.
know? You'd have to really sit down and explain to them that this is a war that they like.
Right.
That they're gonna die.
Now, speaking, you mentioned, you used the word war, which is interesting because it's called Star Wars, obviously, but this was the first one that felt like it was a war movie.
Yeah.
Like there was so much, I think, in the other ones you're following such a personal story, and this was like the war in general. You really got a sense for the first time, I think, the rebellion and what's going on in the rebellion, and I think there was hints at even more of a story there that may have, based on some of the trailers and things that we've seen get cut, may have been in the original script and maybe not anymore. But it felt like a war movie, and I think that worked for it. I think it helped to separate it a little bit more and set the stage for the bigger universe.
And you're not just following the one single character.
Right.
Of Luke, and like you're out in the thick of it while all that's happening.
Right, because obviously Jyn Erso is the lead of this, and Cassian would be sort of the secondary lead. Yeah. But it really, aside from that, there are a lot of important characters that you're following and tracking after, and it didn't feel like this was her personal it had that in it, of course, but it wasn't about that. It felt like it was about something bigger and something more.
It's a stage setter for...
Right, exactly. You mentioned K2.
Yeah.
A new robot to join the fold.
You gotta have the robot psychic.
He was great.
He was great.
Even like
right?
his one line that you're like, oh, that was really nice. He was like, Cassian made me say it.
Exactly.
Yes.
He seems so much more like angsty than any of the other ones. Like,
right.
I mean,
C-3PO.
C-3PO was always like kind of whiny and like stressed out.
Yeah.
But K2 was so like. Did you know it was me before you shot me?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give you a fresh one.
He had a little bit of attitude. It was
Yes.
great. Yeah, not whiny attitude like 3PO had.
Yeah.
He was both the comic relief, but I love that they used all of that to set it up as he's got attitude, he's funny. It set it up like she needed to win him over, and then in the end he sacrifices his life for her.
He was like the one character I was really bummed when he started getting...
Yes.
He was like one of the first to go, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss that one.
I feel
and
like
it was
that
a droid. But
that was one of the more emotional punches in the movie, was this droid getting just...
But then I didn't realize everyone was dying still at this point.
Oh, right.
And he died, and then I thought, oh, they'll reboot him. Because doesn't, like, one of the other ones, R2-D2...
Well, I mean, they tore apart C-3PO a few times now.
Yeah, so I thought, oh, they'll put him back together. But then they all die, so they can't.
Yeah, but then that's all. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Darth Vader...
the best part of the whole movie.
Made his return, and he wasn't there much, but what he was there was...
Like, when you heard him walk in the dark,
yeah.
and everyone was like, is this going to be the lightsaber? And it comes on,
yeah.
like, our audience screamed.
Really?
And, like, you see that stuff in, like, Rebels
sure.
and the comic books when he just goes crazy like that.
Yeah.
But he's so, in the movies, like, he doesn't ever really go nuts and, like, oh, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
And in this one, he just... It was so cool to see, because we've never... ever seen Darth do that.
Yeah.
In the...
Yeah. No, he was... When he was going down that hallway and just taking them out one by one, it did feel at one point a little video game-ish almost. Like, it was like...
It was fine.
But in, like, the best, most awesome way.
Yeah.
'Cause growing up, I remember as a kid, Darth Vader was obviously, like, the villain, I mean, I saw Jedi in the theaters. I'm old. But I never felt scared of him.
Yeah.
I think that would make me, like, you're like, because the Force choke thing is one thing, like, but that to me is like almost like a tease of like the power that he has, and to actually walk in and just like, I'm done with you people, and like destroy them. Like
on like a physical level to go
exactly.
and just like do all that was super cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And then him like out and the blockade runner takes off and it's like 2 seconds later. We'll see him. It was just so cool.
Exactly. Yeah. What were your thoughts on
well,
Darth?
it's kind of cool to see him coming out of the liquid thing.
Oh, yeah.
Bacta tanks.
Bacta tanks?
Yeah. He
You're
just
such a
taking a
nerd.
nap in
I-
there.
I was like, so they just caught Vader in the bathtub.
Yeah.
So
But it was kind of like more, I don't know, you catch a different side of him, literally.
yeah.
I kind of got a little bit of sassiness or like attitude from him when he did the choke thing to the whiny guy in the white.
Oh yeah.
What's his name?
Krennic.
Yeah. When he's like,
The whiny guy in the white thing. Nice.
Casual Star Wars.
Casual.
See what I'm saying?
But it was just like the choke. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He could have killed him, but he was just shutting him up, and it felt like we all wanted to do that to him too.
Right.
So
I literally just thought that was going to be his only scene, and I was totally fine with it.
Yeah.
Because they had like the original like New Hope suit, which
Right.
is very different from all the other ones. And
Did you know as soon as you saw that ship flying over the lava and stuff that's where we were going? Yeah.
And like in the old books and stuff, like he had a castle and like
Right.
it's all these like little things that they shoved in this movie that was like, oh cool, now that's like officially canon.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah. It definitely was like, oh, that's rad. Like
I kept waiting for it to say Mustafar and it didn't. So now I guess it's just another lava planet.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true. They were kind of not consistent with what things they labeled and what things they didn't.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that was cool though. I liked him.
What didn't work for you? What things were you like? Because an 8, a 7.5. There's some room for improvement there. What was missing?
I think just kind of the pacing of the first half. I
Yeah.
was like, let's go. And it was just like short scene after short scene after short scene where we weren't like learning anything. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know, the pacing just was like, there's a lot of air in it and like silence and
Yeah.
in a negative way. They're not like a, because sometimes
Right.
it's fine. But
Right.
for like a Star Wars movie, it just felt like, come on, like let's get there. And then once they finally got to like the beach planet, it like takes off full speed.
Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I felt like they could have trimmed it up a little bit and allowed some of the short scenes to breathe a little bit more, and even gotten rid to me the whole, I get why it was there, but the whole plot of going after her dad, I don't understand. Like they spend all this time, they get there, he dies, they gain nothing from that encounter, and so we just wasted like 20-30 minutes on this whole section of the movie that really didn't pay off in any way. It felt like some odd, plot choices as far as pacing and that type of thing. Especially because we were talking today, we found a video online that pointed out 46 shots that were in the trailers that weren't in the movie.
46?
46 shots that were. Yeah.
Whoa.
And
I
some
knew there was a handful of them. I was like, oh, where was that shot? 46.
And
wow.
that's pretty typical that you'll see a line in a trailer that doesn't make it to the movie because they haven't finished editing at that point or what, but 46 shots and some pretty significant ones that you go, that was there, but it wasn't like that. It changed, there was a shot in one of the trailers that I had forgotten all about where she's out on that bridge at the end.
The TIE Fighter.
And the TIE Fighter comes up. I'm like, that would have been a completely different scene. So obviously, the question always becomes, the messing around with it in editing, did it really improve it? Or we don't know because we don't know what it was going to be. But obviously there were some choices made there and you're still going, but I don't know if that was the right choice or that. We don't know what the alternatives were, but they clearly had some alternative footage there. Mm-hmm. What did you guys think of Saw Gerrera?
That was the part I was just like, what? It actually, seeing it the second time, I got a lot better sense of all of that and his relationship to the rebels and stuff. But the first time opening night, I just kind of remember being like, what is all of this? And he was a character on Clone Wars. Right. And now they're bringing him back for Rebels soon. And then he'll be in this movie. Yeah. But that was just and he just seemed so, I don't know.
And his acting seemed so over the top.
He chewed every word.
He just was.
He was like, is the camera on me?
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to be on me for a while.
Really, Forrest Whitaker, interesting choices here. I didn't love it. I felt it was very distracting.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the person that popped in my mind when you said things that didn't work. That was the one part that I was super confused by because one point you're torn because you're it's like her father figure, the person that raised her, yet how does she feel about him? Oh, I'm still mad at you for dumping me somewhere.
Right.
Am I going to kill you? And what is his relation to the rebellion? I don't know. Is he a bad guy?
Yeah.
And then he dies, so it was so dumb. I'm like, I'm going to make a run for it.
When he stayed behind, I was fine with it.
Right? You're like, okay, cool.
Perfect.
We don't have to deal with that anymore.
It was so dramatic.
I honestly expected when he told the pilot that he had him with that creature that would like whatever, and he said, unfortunately a side effect is that people lose their minds or whatever. I'm like expecting him to be like what happened to me, like that, some explanation of why he's so like whacked out. Yeah. But he just turns out to be just whacked out, I guess. And so by the time he was like, confusing. I'm staying, I'm like, sweet, peace.
But maybe some of the cuts were on him that took out some of the things.
In the original teaser, he has like a whole speech.
Yes.
And none of that was in there.
None of that was in there. And then I knew, I haven't seen the Star Wars Rebels, but I knew that he came from that, so I didn't know if maybe knowing his backstory would have helped with that. But
where does
I don't
legs
even remember
go?
him on the show.
I can't. Yeah, where does legs go? All of that.
What's going on with
like,
that breathing thing?
You're like a proto Darth Vader. Like, what's happening? I don't understand. Yeah, I didn't. That whole thing didn't work for me. And I also want to get your guys' take on the return of Tarkin and Leia. Digitally, completely, because we've got Tarkin, played by Peter Cushing, who died in 1994, looking the exact same as he did in 1979. 1977, sorry. I always know it's either a year after or before I was born, and it's the year before. So I'm old. Anyway, and then you've got Leia, who hasn't looked like that since 1977.
Yep.
So
literally.
Really. She was like, what, 18 or something? Like, she's so young, and she's like not that young anymore, obviously, because time passes. What were your guys' thoughts on that? I'll share mine after.
I thought Tarkin looked amazing, because when they walked in, I knew he was at the window.
Yeah.
And you could kind of see the reflection, and I was like, oh, when he turns around, I wonder who they got to do it and what the makeup is going to look like.
Right.
And then he turned around, and it was literally Peter Cushing.
Right.
And the audience just went, what? Like, oh my God, we can do this now. Like,
he's alive.
And the voice was perfect.
Yeah, the voice, was
And
perfect.
at the end, he does the fire when ready line, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. They did a really killer job with him, but he's also like a supporting character in the film.
Yeah.
And you see how he power plays to get control of the Death Star. That was super cool. But I thought they did a great job on him. Leia just has that one shot, and it's like, it's like kind of uncomfortable, but like it's for a second, so it's like whatever.
Yeah.
I thought they did a really great job.
What did you think? Because you didn't know. I knew going in that they had done this digitally with him. I must have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know, because it didn't surprise me, and I must have read it somewhere, either that I don't know, but it didn't surprise me. But you wouldn't even know necessarily who.
In Revenge of the Sith, they had an actor like in the background do it, and then he's all over Clone Wars and Rebels. Like, he's a main guy on that.
Yeah.
I thought they did a killer job.
Yeah.
Well, I just, with Princess Leia, when she turned around, it was just like thinking about, because it's the last scene, thinking, I'm like, that's not her, obviously. How did they do that? And then I got really distracted. Like, is that makeup? Is that really her? And that's like really good makeup? Or did they take an old shot? And I was stuck on that.
Yeah.
But that's really cool that they digitally did that.
It's interesting because I felt like immediately when I saw Tarkin, I felt like something was just off enough that it was distracting for me. Some of the movements or something, and I online today I'm looking around and it's like split down the middle between like, it was amazing, it was perfect, and people who were like, it was just a little disturbing. And that's kind of where I was like, it's like a 9 out of 10, but that last point mattered. And
the weird thing about visual effects is in 10 years it'll look really weird.
Right.
Because we'll probably be doing this like. I've been reading a lot, like this might be a trend now.
Yeah.
Doing this.
Well, and there's a whole debate on whether it's even ethical to bring somebody back from the dead and make them in a movie. Like, did his family get paid for this? Whatever.
No, the estate loved it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I read something about, I don't know what the law was, but there's a California state law where you can't do something like that for 70 years after they've been deceased, but he died in Britain. So it didn't count. And so Lucasfilm got all of the estate and family. They were like totally fine.
Okay.
And they saw it and were like very emotionally affected by it.
Oh, that's cool.
And we're like, super supportive of it.
That's very cool.
And I think Carrie was just like, pay me.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Something was up with her eyes. I don't know what was going. It just wasn't quite right. And you're right. I'm glad it was short because it was disturbing enough for me to be like.
I didn't even think you'd see her. I thought it was gonna be like one of those things like at the end of Red Dragon where they mention that like Clarice is coming and like that's how it ends.
Exactly.
And I thought it'd be like, get this to the princess.
Exactly.
And then you saw that guy who Vader will kill in the next one come into the room and she's standing there and I was like,
right.
Oh my God, we are gonna see her.
Right.
But not her face. That's her face. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, she's speaking. Like, it was weird.
Nice. All right, final thoughts on the movie. Adam.
I thought it did what it needed to do. It was fun. It hit kind of all the points that I wanted it to do. Got a little bit more Vader than was expecting in like a really badass way.
Yeah.
Tarkin was a huge surprise.
Yeah.
A bunch of the Rebel stuff at the end, like with Red and Gold Leader and Red 5 dying, which will be Luke's call sign. Like all of that was just like super cool. And like filling in that god-awful plot hole from 40 years ago that we were like, what? Now that has like a whole storyline to it. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Stace?
I liked it, even though I had to be mad at it just for a little bit because I didn't know that everyone was going to die. But now that I know that, and it can go back, I need to watch it again, knowing now what I know.
Yes.
And then I can appreciate it more. And then I'd like to also watch it like in chronological order. Once they have some of these more recent ones done, then they can like see how they build on each other. Because I would like to see the next one. What's the episode 4, I guess, would be the next one.
Yeah.
So to see the handoff, like you said, I want to like watch it.
It's pretty. I mean, it's literally like brings it up to like moments later. Yeah. Which is pretty. I thought that was pretty cool.
Overall, the movie, after being upset at it, I like it.
Yeah. And I agree. I think overall, I think it was a successful movie. It showed that they can do more in the Star Wars universe than just the main movies. Makes me excited for what they're going to do with the Han Solo movie, and hopeful that it's gonna work. Because I think if this hadn't worked, this would be the beginning and end of movies outside the mainstream of Star Wars. But. Thank you to Stacy and Adam for being here today, being a part of this. This was really fun. And you can follow us at Nerdy Pop Show on Instagram and Twitter. Let us know what you thought of Rogue One. And check out everything Nerdy Pop at nerdypopshow.com. And we will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.